I'm just we do have Mr. Allison will be arriving shortly. Mr. Fletcher is still tonight. We have a quorum, so we will begin the meeting. Call it to order. If you would stand with me, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we need motions to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All right, we have motion and second.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Guppy.
Yes. All right, moving on to the discussions. We have our superintendent's report, and then over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. I have a few updates to report this evening. The last time we met, I think we had completed lockdown drills at 3 of our 4 schools, and we have completed the 4th one now. And I wanted to share a few observations from those drills. One, our students and staff and teachers did an outstanding job of responding appropriately and getting everybody into a safe place where they were quiet behind at least one locked door. Their response to the drill this time around was better than it has ever been, and that gives us 2 takeaways from that. And that's one, that we can tell that those drills are becoming more effective and becoming a little bit more of a practice for us rather than a standalone event. So I'm very happy with the progress that we're making there. But 2, when everybody responds appropriately, it allows us to focus in on things that we may have overlooked in previous rounds, or it allows us to see things that maybe weren't apparent the first time or the second time through. So we're making a lot of progress with those and feel very good about the our awareness when it comes to doing those lockdown drills. I have some notes to mention about changes to regulations. In the early part of February, I worked with central office staff to make some adjustments to various policy regulations and some protocols. The board is aware that actual policies will come to the board for their approval, but policy regulations are something that the superintendents are allowed to adjust on their own. But I think it's best practice to keep you informed of any revisions or adjustments that we make there. We made a revision to policy regulation DJF-R regarding school contractor screening, and the revision we made places the burden on the contractor or the vendor to certify that they've conducted background checks on their employees rather than having the school bear that responsibility and moreover the responsibility to do that as frequently as our regulation had stated. So this shifts that responsibility. The finance department issued a memo regarding non-compliance with our purchase order process in response to some inconsistencies that we had been seeing that we're trying to stamp out. So just as what happens with people in new positions and so forth, sometimes we need to go back and to make sure that everybody's reading from the same sheet music. We made a policy regulation revision to regulation GCBDR parenthesis 1 regarding staff leaves and absences. And this revision adds some restrictions to the amount of donated sick leave time that employees can request. We had some requests that were somewhat of outliers compared to what other people do. And this brings our leave policy and donated leave policy into compliance with IRS standards. We created a protocol to respond to any federal, state, or local agency that visits one of our schools pursuant to an Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, warrant. This protocol gives our administrators and office personnel a playbook on what to look for and when and how and to what degree we're expected to comply with those warrants. So if there's need to have more discussion on that, I'm happy to do that. But we did not have a protocol in place, and we do now. And we issued expectations on what needs to be prepared for the remote learning days. After quickly using 2 remote learning days, we also realized we need to go back and add a little bit more detail. So We're in the process of spelling that out for our teachers and administrators to make sure that in the event that we need to use more of those, we are set up and ready to go. And finally, this last one was one that I meant to bring at the February meeting, as it predates the other ones. We removed our bring your own device policy regulation from our online catalog policies and regulations. The new cell phone policy regulations supersede the bring your own device regulations. So when we made that change, we took down the bring your own device regulations, and I think it was within hours that Mr. Slagle brought those contradictions to our attention and said, hey, we need to clarify some of this. What we have done is to basically say that the new cell phone regulations replace the old bring your own device regulations. Just a couple more items to round up quickly. This is Read Across America Week. I believe you've all been invited to participate in reading a book to one of our elementary classes. I hope you'll take us up on that opportunity. We've extended similar invitations to local fire and police departments, to the Bristol Rhythm Soccer Club, the girls soccer team at King University, all of the on-air talent at WCYB, several more community members and employees throughout our school division. As I said in my invitation to WCYB staff, we really want our students to know that the community that surrounds them supports them. And I had a wonderful time today reading to Ms. Gammon's third grade students. And I want to thank Ms. Mandy Aubrey, Mr. Rader, Ms. Hampton, and Ms. Stephanie Austin for helping to coordinate my visit and the visits of many others this week. I know that Mr. Blackburn and Ms. Young and Ms. Lewis at the primary school are also coordinating a lot of visitors. So thank you to everyone who is making this a special week for our students. March 6th is our Life Skills Day. Adriana Cox is coordinating the Life Skills event at Virginia High on Thursday. This gives our students an excellent opportunity to practice interview skills with some mock interviews. And then last but not least, and I am remiss in my reporting on all the sports news that happened this week. I know our high school was open pretty much 24/7 this past week with different sporting events. We'll get you a roundup on that here very soon. But last but not least is our Camp Compassion. Ms. Jenny Setting, who is our parent resource teacher in the special ed department, has worked to coordinate Camp Compassion on March 21st. And this is an experience for all of our fifth graders to see the challenges that students with special needs go through and overcome in their lives. And so this event is planned by the students themselves. So it's a great leadership opportunity for a group of fifth graders to get out and do this event. And so there'll be an AM and a PM group that gets to go over to the State Street Methodist and participate in Camp Compassion. So hope to have great pictures from that event at next month's meeting. That concludes my report for this month. Yes.
All right, we'll move along now to our student board representative report.
Hello. In honor of American Heart Health Month, Host a Club rose awareness on how to recognize and prevent cardiovascular conditions. Our scholastical team on February 8th traveled to Richland to compete in the regional tournament where they placed second. And on February 13th, the Beta Club Council welcomed our new members at the candle lighting initiation ceremony. Virginia High School Honor Roll students were awarded at the Honors Luncheon on Wednesday with a meal prepared and catered by the Culinary Arts Department. In honor of Black History Month, VHS cosmetology students recreated traditional Black hairstyles that are being displayed in the main hallway's trophy cabinet. Lucy Foy of Virginia High School recently served as a delegate page at the 2025 Virginia General Assembly.
We'd like to congratulate Mason Caldwell and Braden Sturgill for placing in Skills USA. They both received scholarships to the NASCAR Technical Institute. And we'd like to congratulate Chelsea King for placing runner-up in state. And while not on the presentation, but also because it was so recent, I'd like to congratulate Carla Keeney for placing second in bowling, and Connor Brown for being the state champion.
We also didn't have the time to make a slide either about the basketball games and how we won and how awesome it was. So yes, that is all that we have. Thank you so much.
And with that, all right, then we move to our discussion of superintendent's recommendation. Ms. Yoder.
Good evening, Mr. Ellis.
I'm sorry.
This evening, and what we do every March is to present the superintendent's estimate of needs to the school board. And what we're presenting tonight is a work product that is informed by conversations that we've had with teachers, with administrators, with board members, with members from the city manager's office. And what we're presenting tonight is an estimate of what we believe we can accomplish next year with the projected revenue that we see from the state and local government. I do want to mention as a caveat to all of this that we have not yet seen the Virginia Department of Education calculation template, which will spell out exactly what we're going to expect. So this is based on the joint budget from General Assembly. As we begin, I want to remind the board and all the public of what our budget priorities have been this year. Number one is to make sure that we continue to recruit and retain highly qualified instructional staff. We know that the quality of our education depends so much on the quality of the educators standing in front of the students every day. So we have made sure that in our budget that we can offer at a minimum a one-step increase on all pay scales, and then about a 3% increase on top of that. And so you'll see some of those numbers drill down here as we get through these slides. But that taking care of our educators, and not only the educators, but everyone who supports education. So when we talk about employee raises, I don't want anybody to have the false impression that we're talking about teachers only or principals only, but this is everyone from custodians, bus drivers, school nutrition employees, and so forth. So everybody who works with our students on a daily basis. Second priority is to use the all-in funding that came to us last year for the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act. And so we continue to use that to provide tutoring and to provide incentives for positive behavior. And it's also helping with some of the professional development that we're using to train our teachers for the Virginia Literacy Act. Number three, we're going to address counting. I think when I was messing with the slides, I got the number screwed up. My apologies there. Number listed there is number 4, to provide adequate funding to schools to enhance science and mathematics proficiencies and provide hands-on learning opportunities. Something we continue to do in all of our classrooms. We know that one of the best strategies for students is to make learning more experiential, make it hands-on. So that's something we continue to do through our reading coaches, through our math coaches, and so forth. We also want to strategize funding to continue the attendance clerks and additional attendance officer positions. So that is something that is also being taken care of this year in the all-in funding. But we have a plan for how to continue that beyond the fiscal year 26 budget. At the end of last year, I told you that this was a big hiring year for us. So we have hired a lot of teachers and put a plan in place for mentoring them and providing continuous support for them, and so we will continue those efforts. And then the last one is to prioritize capital improvements that address both immediate security concerns and long-term infrastructure needs, and to fund those accordingly. And the board last month approved the TNL comprehensive study of our buildings. So we're going to be making progress on that even this fall. But some of those projects will be outlined over years to come. So those are all designed to help us make sure that our buildings stay in great shape and we continue to be innovative when it comes to security. So when we think about funding, we know that a large percentage of funding comes directly from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and with that comes required local effort. So you can see those two numbers in the middle of the screen there. With the governor's introduced budget, we were looking at required local effort from the city of Virginia at about $8.8 million. General Assembly, in adding funds, has also kind of dragged the local required effort a little north of that, so about $9.1 million based on the conference budget. So that number represents the minimum funding that the city has to provide to go along with what the state is giving. We are not asking the city of Bristol to contribute anything more than that minimum number. So when we add those two lines together, you can see that the adjusted minimum city contribution is about $9.4 million, and that adds in $322,500 for the debt service paid to the schools. One of the interesting things that we had to wrap our heads around this year is anticipating that healthcare costs continue to increase. That's not unique to Bristol, but that is a countrywide scenario. And so what we did is we looked at cost sharing models. Line number one there that you see is where we have been. Okay. Line number one is what has been current here, where for the cost of the employee-only coverage, the employee is paying 1% and the school division is paying 99% of that cost. And we had, when we were looking at the possible increase in healthcare coverage, we knew that was going to continue to escalate and that we needed to do more to share that cost. And we don't want to pass on a lot of burden to our employees. And so up until middle of January into the beginning of February, we really thought that number was going to be in line with row number 4 there, that the employee-only coverage, asking the employee to cover 10% of that out of pocket was going to be likely event. And you can see as you read that table out in the 2 right-hand columns that was going to still come with a big price tag for the school division. However, as good luck would have it, the increase that we were looking at did not appear to be as steep in the final numbers. So we were able to come back to the table and offer the employees, in our budget, we were budgeting for a 95.5% share. So it is technically an increase to what the employee cost will be, but we did not make that such a drastic increase as we thought we were going to have to. That still puts the school division in taking on overwhelmingly the lion's share of that, the lion's share of the new cost. But it's inevitable that cost is going to continue to rise over years to come, and this gets us in line with where the city is with its employees. And I think I've covered that one. So as you can see, that those 5 scenarios, we narrowly were able to avoid the one that is worst case scenario for the employee, and that was by virtue of 2 things: the increase that's coming along with the conference budget, and also the numbers not being as bad as initially anticipated as far as the actual cost of that increase. When we talk about employee compensation, that there's 2 aspects to that. One is the cost of those benefits, and one is what we can do to add money to their paycheck. And we have to balance those 2. And one of the things that we were cautious of the whole way through, and each board member had an opportunity to weigh in on this. I don't believe I'm overstepping by speaking for you and saying that consensus among the board was make sure that if there's even a modest pay increase, that we're not also reaching into the employee's pocket and taking that right back out that healthcare cost. So it was very important to the board, very important to me that we played with these numbers to try to maximize what we can do for each employee. So when we talk about giving a step on the scale, that means that all employees, if you're on step 12 in the current year, you move to step 13. But then we, in doing those percentage increases on top of that step, we look at the mid step on that scale, so step 13 for the teacher scale, and we look at what a 3% increase would be there, and when we arrive at that dollar amount, we apply that evenly throughout the scale, so that you're not benefited more by being at the top of that scale and getting a larger, a dollar amount that's larger by virtue of your base salary compared to people at the bottom of the scale. So I think that we have a very good methodology for doing that. Make sure that everybody appreciates the same kind of increase when we talk about their compensation. So there's a lot of numbers on this page, okay? But what we want to make sure that we understand is that these accounts have beginning balances, and what we're expecting here is that the revenue that comes in, as you can see, for the most part, it is going to be matched up with those expenditures, nothing being left completely bare at the end of the year when we think about projects that we might get into or any of the school construction fund usage that we have. So in the general fund, this is all based off of what the conference budget said on February 20th. We're looking at a step increase plus 3% for our staff. We are being slightly engaging in cost sharing to a slightly higher degree with the healthcare program. We do have 2 new buses being purchased out of this budget. Make sure that we continue to replace buses that are beginning to age out on our fleet. We are going to be adding positions in 1 position each in maintenance, our custodial staff, a bus driver, and the secretary at middle school. And we are budgeting to modify the program director salary scale and a supervisor scale. We have a handful of employees right now who technically are in supervisory positions, but are still being paid on an hourly scale. And so what this will do is move them into a new category that recognizes the fact that they have those responsibilities to evaluate employees, and it will make them salaried for overtime employees. Okay, so just looking at the nitty-gritty numbers here, we can see from the state revenue line at the top there, our increase of just over $1 million. In the restricted funds, looking at a modest $143,000. Federal revenue has dropped. That tends to fluctuate from year to year a little bit. Local revenue, again, based on the conference budget, looks like an additional contribution on top of where they were last year of $356,182. The other revenue that is showing a slight decrease there. But in total, the growth in the budget is about $1.29 million. So with that, we're hopeful to be able to accomplish everything that we just outlined there. And I think on one of the next slides, we have the next pie chart to show the breakout of how all these different departments come together. But you can see where the overwhelming majority of the money is allotted is to instruction. And you'll see when we get to the pie chart that so much of that is in teacher salaries and salaries for everybody that works with us. Go to the next slide, please. There it is. So this is right in line with practically every school division in the Commonwealth. I think this is the balance that you always want to see, is that about 70% of the money that comes in through the systems is spent on instruction, very little comparatively spent on the operations side. When you're talking about the budget of in the $30 million range, that's still plenty to work with there. So I think that we're in very good shape for the upcoming school year. I think we've honored a lot of commitments to make sure that we're keeping high quality instructors in front of our students. Also make sure that we are honoring our commitment to keep our buildings safe and innovative. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time or to sidestep them and let Tammy Jones take them. And this will come up on the action agenda here later in the meeting for budget. Thank you.
The next section is public comment. Individuals may speak. I'll ask that they limit their comments to 3 minutes. We do have one tonight. And Ribbon.
I'm not nearly as good at speaking as Dr. Scott is, so I have mine on my phone here so I can get through it real quick. I appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity to speak. Again, my name is Shane Griffith, and I wanted to address the critical issue regarding my son's experience at West Virginia Public Schools. I've already witnessed the positive outcomes of this school system with my first son, Cody, who recently graduated. And a couple of my younger son, who's in the 6th grade, has faced significant challenges due to bullying that I just simply can't overlook. Cole began the school year by getting out of bed and excited to go to school, eager to attend, eager to learn, displaying his joy for that school. He said it was much better than elementary school. Unfortunately, as the year progressed and friendships formed, he became a target for bullying. And despite our recent communications, numerous emails to the administration, no effective action was taken to address the situation to keep it from getting where it is. It escalated to the point where Cole felt compelled to retaliate, leading to a suspension that will now mar his permanent school record. And I think this is unacceptable. We have the documentation that clearly shows our ongoing concerns, and it's clear that the situation could have been prevented had the school acted responsibly. We cannot ignore the profound impact that this has had on Cole's mental well-being, leading him to miss approximately 14 or 15 days of school this year. His safety and mental health, to me, have become a priority over his academic learning. The situation is not just about my son. It reflects a broader issue that affects many students. Bullying is a serious problem. And it occurs in schools everywhere, not just here in Bristol. Pause my spot just a second. We need to change the conversation around how we address these issues. Children's mental health must be prioritized alongside their education. The reality of bullying can drive children to desperate thoughts, and we all know that. And I worry daily about my son's well-being. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a very real matter to me. I understand the complexities teachers face, but I firmly believe we need to empower them to intervene decisively in such cases. We cannot continue to prioritize administrative agendas over the safety of our children. I've spoken to many other concerned parents who share my perspective, and I urge others to stand up for their kids as well. I request that the school board take immediate action to remove this incident from Cole's permanent record. I do not advocate violence, but I teach my children the importance of standing up for themselves and protecting their personal space. Unfortunately, my son was driven to protect his personal space. He had no other out, none. Cole reached a breaking point, and his response, while regretful, was a direct result of the failure to address his ongoing bullying by school officials. I sincerely appreciate your attention to this matter, and I implore you to review the bullying policy. It is crucial that we respond effectively to incidents when they're reported, especially when we have communications as persistently as we have. I had a constructive conversation with school officials, including the vice principal, who has been very helpful. I have to say about the principal at West Virginia Public Schools for the last year. I think they're phenomenal. I think they're great. I think they're one of the best they can do with things that they do. Still, we must ensure robust changes occur to protect our students' well-being moving forward. I really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
All right, we're on now to consent agenda. Here, a motion to approve.
Second.
Jennifer, you follow.
Mr. Alva,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Gettleman.
Yes. Action items are next on the list. Item 5A is the approval of the 2025-2026 school board budget. I hear a motion. Yes.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school board budget. I'll second.
Any discussion on that? Jennifer, you follow.
Mr. Alva,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Gettleman.
Yes. Item 5B, the approval of school board budget revision number 5. This is for the current year, the 5A is for next. So we're revision number 5. I hear a motion to approve.
I move we approve revision.
Second.
Ms. Jennifer, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Alva,
If you would like me to offer a couple of minutes, yes, ma'am. These are minor revisions, but this is just transfers to close out some accounts and make some adjustments to some of the title programs. It's basically cleanup work, so that this is nothing out of the ordinary here.
Any other discussion? All right. Call the roll.
Mr. Alva,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Gettleman.
Yes. And item 5C is the approval of amendment of the 2025-2026 calendar. I hear a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that?
Can you clarify what this is an amendment to? What's changed?
I will do my best, Mr. Hartley. With our calendar committee, they meet every 2 years and propose 2 years worth of school calendars. When they were doing this work in their last cycle, one of the things that was on the horizon was the Virginia Literacy Act and the training that our teachers would need to do for that. For that reason, the calendar had many different opportunities where students would be in school for half a day, and the second half of the day would be for professional development. And there were such events that had to be done with facilitators, and we had to schedule those well in advance. Our teachers have done an outstanding job of getting through that training ahead of schedule in many cases. And so the need to have those half days is not quite as pressing as it had been in year one of the calendar. So that's one of the things we've done, is to remove some of those half days. We also, I don't have my notes in front of me on the change we did with the professional development, but I think we have professional development now on election day. And then we made sure that with some of what we do for the work days that we, with teachers there, you can see on page 2 of this, the staff development days, beginning of the week, for August 6th through the 12th at the beginning of the school year, we have those in there. But we also have other days that they can use as staff development days. And if you look at the very top of the page, the work days, one of the things that we were hoping to do is to create some flexibility for teachers to work those days when it is more convenient for their schedule. And I know at the high school in particular, January 5th is a day that we have listed as a work day, but we know that how important it is for those teachers to get in and have time to switch from the fall semester to the spring semester. So we're going to be talking to our principals about creating additional flexibility around that January 5th potential work day. But basically that's what it is trying to adjust our calendar in a way that is conducive to getting those work days in without having to take as many half days for the other trainings that we had previously scheduled. And Mr. Ritchie is much more able to comment on that. We need to clean some of that up. I'll be happy to have him work.
Thank you.
Mr. Avis,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Gettleman.
Yes. All right, I would like to, keep on the theme, I will have, Mr. Slagle read this into the closed session, but I would just like to share, say thank you to, from Virginia Middle School, they could frame some of their artwork, and there were some of these framed artworks in your city. So, check that out, I thought that was very thoughtful. So,
Was very thoughtful. They seem to be personalized a little bit too.
yes, yes. They were, and to us, thank you to us. All right, Mr. Slagle, if you would read this in closed session.
Pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following matters: discussion of certain personnel, recommendation for employment, retirements, and resignations.
Second.
Mr. Avis,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Slagle,
Yes.
Mrs. Gettleman.
Yes. So thank you for coming.
because these are not tying into the system that streams. And so this
West Virginia School Board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, the only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, and only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were considered.
I hear a second.
Second.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett.
Yes.
Mrs. Slagle.
Yes.
Mrs. Getty.
Yes. Now I need a motion to approve attachment A.
I'll make a motion to approve attachment A.
I'll second.
Mrs. Jones, call the roll, please.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett.
Yes.
Mrs. Slagle.
Yes.
Mrs. Getty.
Yes. All right,